Hello again and welcome to another Warlord Wednesdays, the episode where we talk about all things bolt action. And today guys, I want to take you through my fun list that I put together for the Bolt Action Shindig 2022. This is actually an event that I organised and ran with a group of friends that we all got into bolt action at the same time, and there's enough of us now that we thought, you know what, we've got enough people here to put together a decent one-day event. And I've always wanted to run events, so I thought, why not cut my teeth on a nice fun bolt action one with lots and lots of friends. Now, just to be clear, this is not a necessarily very competitive army, and one other thing to mention is today I'm going to be talking about the list, but in the next bolt action video I'll be going into details about the event, the games that I played, the style, the format, and just everything, and just some lessons learned and experience that I gained from that event. But today we're going to be talking about the list. Now, this is a really fun list, and I highly encourage anyone who's looking to get into bolt action, they want to run something that maybe features a bit of a late war German vibe without it just being Germans with spamming STGs all over the place. You want a bit of variety and whatnot, then this is definitely a list that I think you would enjoy. And of course, it runs a Tiger tank. And what fun, good German list can you take that doesn't have a Tiger tank? I don't know. I mean, there are better options, don't get me wrong, but I absolutely love the Tiger tank. And after running it at this event and running it in this list, I don't think I can leave home without one. I mean, I'm not just talking for bolt action. I mean, I think generally I've just got to have this Tiger tank in my pocket because it's just, I found it to be that awesome. Not necessarily amazing or good, just awesome. Anyway, guys, let's dive into this list now. Now, when I was putting this little force together, there was a couple of things I had in mind. Firstly, I wanted to take the Tiger. I'd had a little bit of a discussion with some of my Axis teammates before lists were submitted, and I just said to them, let's bring as much heavy armor as we can. I know heavy armor isn't the most competitive or anything like that, but it is fun, and this is not a competitive tournament or anything like that. It's very much a fun event, and so basically, between us, we all, I think, on average, every player had a decent tank, either a medium or a heavy tank, and one crazy mother flipper even turned up with a King Tiger. So that was just sort of the theming behind the behind my list. I wanted something that was a bit late war, but that was focused around the Tiger. Now, in terms of actually putting this list together, the first thing I did is obviously I selected my officer, and I just went for a second lieutenant. Took him regular, cheap as possible, 50 points I think, and I had him with a single bozo, single mate, and the both of them just had SMGs. Now, I know that you can give the officer an STG-44, which is an assault rifle, and it's like the best way to run your officer because it's like a free upgrade and all that kind of stuff. But no, that goes against the grain. It goes against the unwritten rule of bolt action, which is it's the gentleman's game. And if it's modeled with an SMG, it's taken an SMG. So that's what I ran my officers with. So my officer in this, I call him Count von Pimpenhofen because he's got a cool pimpy coat. And it's because he's the winter German officer. And rather than painting him in like a winter uniform with like a white coat or anything like that, I painted it as like just this big, cool, brown, fluffy field jacket. So he's Count von Pimpenhofen and his aide. And then supporting him, I had 2 squads of 5 regulars. And each one of those had an LMG. Now, the reason I actually really like these little 5-man regular squads with a single LMG in them. They're 70 points, and I use them very similarly to how I would use an MMG team. Now, you might be saying, but Mordian Glory, a regular squad with 1 light machine gun is 70 points, and a medium machine gun regular is 50 points. So if you're using them light medium machine guns, why not save yourself 20 points? And that's a really good point. But what I would say is that every single game I've ever used a medium machine gun pretty much, they're just sniper bait. First thing that gets picked out. Now, you could argue that, yeah, but the sniper's going to pick that light machine gun out. It's like, yeah, no, he could do. But at least if the sniper picks the light machine gun out, I don't lose a dice. I've still got 4 blokes running around. And those 4 blokes are still perfectly capable of holding an objective. They're still perfectly capable of just adding a bit of, putting a pin on something with 4 rifles at 24-inch range. And so that's how I really used my regular sort of LMG squads. They're just there as sort of little objective holders. They can do a little bit of everything. They can take an objective, they can hold an objective, they can provide a little bit of fire support. They tend to be kind of low priority when you've got things like Tigers and bigger squads running around. So I found them to be actually in the context of this list, just really simple, relatively cheap and effective units, and a good dice in the bag, and a good bit of resilient firepower. So those, I took 2 of those, and then I wanted to take some veterans. I always like taking veterans. I don't like spamming them, because I feel like they are really powerful, and I like to try and take a more balanced and fun list. And also the Tiger was sucking up a lot of points, but we'll get to that in a moment. So I decided what I've found to be a really effective little veteran squad, and I hope this is something that other people can take away and emulate. For my Germans, what I like to do is take 7 veterans. It's not too expensive. It's just 7 veterans is all right, and I give 5 of them SMGs, and then I give 2 of them STGs. Now, really, I could probably save myself a couple of points and give all of them just SMGs, because what this squad does is it goes in the truck. And pretty much without fail, what this unit will do every single game is they'll start, if where possible, off the board, in reserve, in the truck, and they will be my counter-attack unit, or they'll be my reinforce unit, where if an attack's going particularly well on a certain area and I want to capitalize on it. So they'll come barreling in on the truck. The truck can go sort of 12 inches of the road. The truck can go like 24 inches, and they can jump out. And then they'll jump out and they'll just hose things down. And there's 7 of them with assault weapons, so they don't suffer the penalty for moving and shooting. I like to get them in point blank range, so they're hitting on 2s. And they could do 14 shots. And they tend to do a really good job of just rinsing a unit when they come into play. They do a really, really effective job. So I really like that combination. So those were my good troops. You could say my good infantry. 2 little squads of regulars, and that squad of nice attacking veterans. Now, I then realised that I was starting to use up a lot of points, and I knew that the Tiger was going to take even more points up. And I thought, hang on a second here, I just need some bodies. I need some just good old-fashioned wounds on the table. But what I want to be able to do is have an army which is good at both attacking and defending. And right now, I've got an equal number, roughly, of attackers and defenders, 10 regs versus 7 veterans. So I thought, you know what, I'll add in 10 more infantry to either side of the equation. 10 more for the attack, 10 more for the defense. And so I thought, you know what, the first thing I'll do is I'll take a unit of 10 green grenadiers. Now, green grenadiers are actually a choice from, I believe it's like the D-Day book. So they are technically a theatre unit, but they are essentially exactly the same as sort of Luftwaffe Field Division or Kriegsmarine. They're just inexperienced infantry with the green rule. Now, so one of the rules I had in this event was you can't take any theatre units unless it's like a like-for-like kind of swap, or it fits into sort of the theme and fluff of your army. So, and it's kind of like TO's discretion. Because there was only like 18 people at the event, I was able to review each list pretty detailed and make a decision either way. So, for example, we had someone who wanted to run a late war American paratrooper squad. Technically, you can only get those in the Battle of the Bulge, but the only difference between them is he wanted to take a BAR in his squad rather than an LMG. And I was like, yeah, that's totally fine. Take that BAR. That's not a problem. Likewise, you had someone who wanted to run the sniper squad from the Stalingrad book for the Soviets. I was like, yeah, no problem. You want to take the sniper squad? That's not a problem. You're paying for it. It's a good unit, but it fits in with the theme of your army. It's absolutely fine. I had another German player who wanted to take some green grenadiers, and I went, yep. It's an inexperienced infantry squad with the green rule. You could basically, if someone quibbles it with you, don't worry. Just say that they're Luftwaffe Field Division. Just say that they're Kriegsmarine. They're basically the same thing. So what I did here is I literally took 10 of these green grenadiers and I just gave them rifles. No upgrades whatsoever. And they were literally 10 bodies that were to sit on an objective, to hold a flank. And even green infantry, if it goes down, it tends to just, it's actually quite difficult to wipe out a whole squad in bolt action at sort of long range, getting, sort of plink damage, chip damage. And that's what I really like about this Green Grenadier squad. I think they killed maybe one dude the whole tournament. But all they did every single game is just, there's always an objective somewhere. There's always a little flank that they could hold down. They could just get in the way. And so every single game, they just sat there and they basically took mortar rounds. But they stayed down, so the mortar rarely blew them all up in one go. They never uprated, and they never really did any damage, but they were just 10 bodies on the board. I would actually say that this sort of green unit here was probably my most ineffective unit. But they did, and you know, if I was to improve the list, that would be the first place I'd look to improve it. But overall, you can't go too wrong with 10 infantry for 70 points and just to sit there with the green rule and hold an objective. Would 7 regulars have been better? Maybe. But I just needed bodies to add to the defensive list, defensive side of the list. So then I wanted to do the same thing to the attacking side of the list, and I included a unit of my new favourite infantry, the Volksgrenadiers. Now this was actually, I put these in on the recommendation of one of my fellow Axis players, guy who follows this channel, who I actually am good friends with through the channel. That's why I love doing YouTube stuff. You meet all sorts of just great people doing it. And he was like, take Volksgrenadiers, they're great. You know, and I was like, are you sure, Alex? They seems a bit weird giving STGs to inexperienced infantry. And he went, trust me, 10% of the time they work every time. And I was like, well, can't fault that logic. They're fantastic. And so I actually, and I've done a video, a full sort of 20-30 minute video on Volksgrenadiers. So I'm not going to go into the details of them now. But basically, they're like super inexperienced green infantry because they get 2 chances to uprate. They get a chance to go from inexperienced to regular, and if you do that, they get another chance to go from regular to veteran, and it sort of goes off one in every sort of 10 games essentially that they fully uprate. But when they do, oh man, is it game changing? And these guys are just 10 blokes, so more bodies adding to the more bodies adding to the attacking side, and they've got 5 STGs. And so when you actually put it all together, I've got sort of 17, I've got 20 infantry on the defense, which is my 2 regular squads and my Green Grenadiers. And I've got sort of 19 infantry with assault weapons on the attack. Because I've got my 7 veterans, my officer and his mate who tended to babysit the Volksgrenadiers. And the Volksgrenadiers, that's like 20-20, right? And then I had a little bit of a, sort of 50-50 split, I should say, on 20 infantry on each side, roughly. I then obviously had the truck, which was supporting the attacking force as well. And then I had decided I needed a little bit of more long-range fire support, so I had a medium mortar, regular experience with a spotter, and that was like the support unit for the defending side. So you can see it's been very equals pequals here. I've got 3 units and a support element on the defense, 3 units and a support element on the attack, and then last but not least, I had the Tiger. And the Tiger I knew would be kind of good at everything and would kind of be the linchpin of my army. Now, I actually thought, I took the Tiger as regular, and then I paid for the pintle mounted medium machine gun. So it, in theory, technically, it has 3 medium machine guns. That's 3 German medium machine guns, which fires, this means that this unit is firing 18 shots. That's really nice. And the Tiger has a super heavy anti-tank gun, which is like pen plus 7, and which is amazing. And it has a 3-inch template for blowing infantry up as well, which is, again, anything. Even veterans are getting wounded on 2s by this bad boy. So it's pretty gnarly. It's a pretty big beast. Now, I know some people will poo-poo the idea of taking that MMG, that pintle MMG, because if the turn you use it, your tank becomes open topped, and that means you use that pintle MMG, people are then going to start firing little rifles and crap at your big expensive Tiger, and they're going to start pinning it. So I had a really clear tactic in mind for using this Tiger, and I had a couple of practice games using it, and this tactic had worked really effectively. I put it in a really defensive position to start with, because I knew I had the range advantage over any enemy tank, because I've got like 84-inch range, something crazy with a super heavy anti-tank gun. And I knew that I had 36-inch range with my machine guns as well. So I put it in a really defensive position, and in a position where, and I screened it out really, really effectively, but didn't block its fire lane, because obviously you've got to stay away from shooting within an inch of your own blokes. And it basically covered like a fire lane. It covered or covered a serious part of the board, and I screened it. And because it was so far back, most of the time, in fact, in every single game, my opponents were rarely able to get a good shot at it, because I played it quite cagey with this unit. And that meant that I was often able to have the luxury of shooting the Tiger last. And the advantage of being able to shoot the Tiger last is, 1, I can use that pintle MG, because it's open top for the turn that you use it. But if you use it as the last dice, and please, if anyone knows differently to this, correct me, because I'm very much bot action noob. But if I use it as the last dice, then I get to shoot with the pintle, and then next turn it's not shot yet, so it doesn't count as being open topped again. That's as far as I understand the rule. If I'm wrong, correct me. And so you get to do that, and the other advantage is that often if it's the last unit going, the vast, or on your side, it means the opponent's probably gone with loads of his units as well, and that means that your opponent is, you can often find a target that hasn't gone down and can't go down. It's already active, it's already done like a run, or it's done an advance order, and that means that that heavy gun is often really effective. You more often than not, you're going to be in half range because you've got such a long range. And probably the enemy is just going to have some form of light cover, which means you're often able to hit on fours with that big gun. And if you're not able to hit on fours with it, then you're able to switch over to your, your 3 machine guns, and then just absolutely pepper someone up with them. So I was finding the Tiger to be really effective. It was often picking up handfuls of infantry sort of every other turn, or it was hosing down loads of infantry that were like sprinting out in the open with its 3 machine guns. It was just a really versatile unit. And so what I found is I played it cagey with the Tiger, because bot action has often got sort of a minimum of 6 turns, then often a turn 7, sometimes even a turn 8 on some of the longer games. What I found was that I was able to play it cagey with the Tiger for the sort of first 3 turns, and then I was able to start applying pressure with it. And so it was not only a defensive unit, it was also an attacking unit. So I just found that to be really, really effective. And so I would say hands down that the Tiger was probably my most viable unit, and it was definitely the most effective unit, and it was really psychologically, it's really a big psychological impact on your opponent when you're facing a Tiger tank. Most people don't face heavy armor. Most people face Panzer IVs, Panzer IIIs. That's kind of, maybe a Panther. But even then, Panthers are, they're not true heavy tanks. And if you get the flank shot on them, they're not that scary. But the vast majority of the time, people will turn up to a game and they're going to have a Panzer III or a Panzer IV. That's kind of what people take when they're taking a standard German list. And very much that was the case. I think 4 people on our team had Panzer IVs. So it was really, for a lot of people, they just weren't prepared for a Tiger tank. And so most people were like, oh, I'll take a medium AT gun. That'll cover off my anti-tank needs. A medium AT gun and maybe something like a bazooka or something like that. But it's like, well, okay, but they're only pen +5. And so at long range, they're only pen +4. And so you're only glancing my Tiger on a 6. So it's actually really durable. And yeah, you might get a pin on it, but I've got my officer, often he'll be nearby, basically negating that pin. If he's not spawning the Volksgrenadiers, he's spawning the Tiger. So I found the Tiger to be really effective. People just, and I've said this in my heavy tank video, which you can find in the bolt action playlist I've got on the Mordian Glory channel. I said that heavy tanks are often seen as ineffective, but if you turn up to a game without one, and your opponent turns up to a game with one, it's a big deal. If you don't turn up prepared to at least be able to damage or pin out a heavy tank, it's going to run rampant if it's used effectively. The thing with heavy tanks is a lot of players don't use them effectively because they think, oh yeah, big heavy tank, Tiger Fear, I'm going to run around and I'm just going to demolish everything. It's like, no. This tank must be used very cagey. There is an art to using heavy tanks. You can't just go in there and just expect to crush it all before you. They are a finesse unit, but if you can use them with finesse, they're extremely powerful. And so if you notice with this list, my Tiger is all of my anti-tank. It's all of my anti-tank eggs in one basket. Apart from, you could say the mortar is kind of some soft AT in there as well. But I don't have any Panzerfaust or anything like that. But oh boy, is it enough. Because no Sherman wants to go up against a heavy tank face to face. They don't want to against a Tiger. They don't want to do it. So often your opponent will deploy somewhere he doesn't want to be. You're able to get a file in on him, and then you're outranging him and all this kind of stuff. It's great. Anyway, guys, so that's my list, and that's sort of the logic behind it and where I put it all together. You've got an equal split of attack and defense. The Tiger is an equally good attacker and defender unit. And overall, it was really, really effective. And this list, at a fun event, was able to win all of its games, which is really, really good. At no point did it totally smash an opponent. At no point did it sweep all before it. It was just a fun list for a fun event. And if you're a player who wants to play Germans and be able to use a Tiger, then I recommend that you try this list out, because I think you'll find it to be sort of pleasantly effective once you've had a few practice games with it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in supporting the channel further, please check out the Patreon page. There's a link down in the description below. And of course, goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. It's thanks to the patrons that I was able to, have that funding to get into other game systems like Bot Action and pick up a few armies like my late war Germans and be able to run them at the event. And the patrons helped fund the organisation of the event. So massive thank you to my patrons. You guys truly are you're the bee's knees. You're fantastic. So massive thank you. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.